Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows and I am super excited because I just bought a ton of quilt books and I got them for almost nothing. I got 22 quilt books and each one was like between $1.50 and $2.50 or something like that a piece. And I got these at a local fundraiser. Our library twice a year has this fundraiser where people throughout the town donate books throughout the year, and then twice a year you come and on the first day you buy books for like, you know, $5 or $10, and then it continues to go down until it's like $1 or $2, and on the last day you can get a whole bag of books for $1. So I went when the books were between, you know, like $1.50 and $3, and they price it depending on hardcover, softcover, things like that. But really good deals, and there were so many books to choose from. So most of these books are not pattern books. They're quilt history books. These first two kind of are pattern books. They're from the same line, Great American Quilts. I'm gonna turn the camera on so you can see these a little bit better. But the reason why I got these two and I was so excited about these is for a long time, I think in the 80s and 90s, every year, they would come out with these books called Great American Quilts. And I have a couple of these. I recently got some on Abe Books for like $5 a pop or something like that, and I liked them so much. Let me show you why I'm so enthusiastic about this series in particular. These are two that I already had, 1992, and then this one is book 5. So some of them are labeled by year. These are the two new ones. These are both labeled by year, 88 and 87. And some of them are labeled by number, like book 5, but they all have this, you know, same cover with the diamond in the middle. It looks like, you know, 4 quilts are coming together. So that's how you can easily recognize those. But these are the ones I already had. And the way that these books work is that it will tell a little blurb about the quilt maker. So here's the little blurb about the quilt maker. Then it will give a little blurb about the quilt. And then it has these beautiful pictures of the quilt itself. Then it goes on to show you the pattern. And then it repeats, right? It'll go, the next one will be a person. So here's the person, her little description. It's not really a bio. It's more kind of like just a little tidbit about quilting and how she feels about quilt making. And then the description of the quilt itself. And then it goes on to have the pattern. So I really love these because I love the pictures of the women. Here, let me get the two that I actually bought today. Okay, so here are the two that I bought today. And let me just flip through. So I've noticed that the ones from the 80s are frequently better. So again, you know, here's the quilt maker. Here's the quilt. Look at that boy on the water. It's pretty great. So you get the idea. These I highly recommend. I can't wait to jump in and take a look at those. Next one, and I have 22 books here, so those are for the first two. This one is Gifts from Your Scrap Basket. And what I liked about this book here is I thought that I may be able to take some of these little projects and do some YouTube videos on these. There's the birthday one. I haven't flipped through any of these all that much, so this is new to me as I'm showing you. I like the fact that that's a whole birthday theme. So maybe I could find some in here that we could do together because they all look like they're pretty short and basic. You know, I did something similar to this. It was called like a rose quilt block. I'll try and link to that in the description below if I remember, but I did something similar. But this one, it looks like it might be paper pieced. Mine was just more improv. But you could do that easily as an improv style. And this book here is from, I like to know how old they are. I really like the books from the 80s quite a bit. This one was from 2000. Quilts of Alaska. This one, I have a thought about what this might be, and I don't know if my thought is correct, but basically many of the states have their own state documentary quilt books where the state kind of puts out a call to people who may have, you know, antique and vintage quilts to come and have their quilts documented, and then they make a book out of some of the ones that are a little bit more special, some of the quilts. And many of the books are really fantastic. I had read the one for Alabama, and I'm reading now the one for Georgia. The one for Alabama is spectacular. It is highly worth the read. The one for Georgia I'm also really, really enjoying, and I will give you a book review of that book when I'm done with it. And I was thinking that this might be the quilt documentation project for Alaska, but I'm not sure. I'll have to read the little intro to see what this book specifically is. But Quilts of Alaska, the textile album of the last frontier. So it sounds like this might be something different. Alaska Quilt Survey. This might be something different, but this looks really good. Oh, here's another, I have another great American quilt. So this one is from, this one is book 8. So again, I don't think I need to show you, but it's the same setup. The person, the quilt, and then the pattern. A Garden of Quilts, Mary Elizabeth Johnson. I do love this block. I can't remember what this block is called, but I would love to make that particular block. My guess is this is a bunch of flower quilts. Well, I don't know. What is this? What is this book about? This looks more like a history book. Designs and patterns for over 50 flower quilts. So it looks like these are patterns, but there's a lot of text. I really prefer books that have a lot of text. So this one looks good. This one is supposedly more of a pattern, but I'm not seeing a ton of pattern pieces. Oh, look at that one. That's pretty amazing. History from the Heart, a 2-century heritage of Illinois quilts and quilt making. So this is one that I thought might have been the quilt documenting project for Illinois, but now that I'm looking at the cover a little bit more closely, I think it's not. I think this might be something else. A 2-century heritage of Illinois quilts and quilt making, quilt paths across Illinois. Based on findings of the, it is the one for Illinois. Based on findings of the Illinois Quilt Research Project. So this is the one for Illinois, similar to the one that I read for Alabama and the one I'm reading for Georgia. And these books all have a ton of text because they have a lot of information about the quilts, because the quilt owners bring them in, and frequently family members will have been the ones to make the quilts. And so they have more information than if, just collectors had brought the quilts in who may have less information about the quilt makers and where the quilts came from. So that's a real winner. Hop to It, Applique Blocks and Projects. This is one of the very few pattern books I did get, and I got this because it's by Adita Sitar of Laundry Basket Quilts, who I am a big fan of. She has her own YouTube channel, and I love to just listen to her speak. She has the most positive, reaffirming voice. Oh, there she is. That's her. She has, the way that she talks and the things that she says just make me happy. So I would check out her YouTube channel if you want to. But I got this because I really, in general, just really like her quilts. And so I thought why not? And usually these books are pretty expensive. I have another one of her books that I splurged on, but I thought this would be good. And I do love applique. I've really been doing quite a bit of applique lately, so I thought this would be a winner. This is pretty heavy on the florals. It's funny, it's called Hop to It, but it only has that one bunny block. Everything else is very floral. And these, are a little bit a dime a dozen in terms of these quilt blocks here. But, I do love Adita, so. Oh, there's the bunny block. It's pretty cute. The Joy of Quilting. I have absolutely no idea what this book is. Oh, there's the author. When was this written? Oh, and it's inscribed. That's kind of nice. 1990. So let's see, what is this book about? I'll have to read the introduction to really know, but imagery and, let's look at some of the chapters maybe. So we have imagery and inspiration. Quilted wall hangings, the fabric medium. I don't know how much I'm gonna love this book, but it was kind of an odd little thing, so I thought I would grab it and maybe get inspired in some way. It does feel pretty dated, It does look like maybe there are some specific projects to make in here. Oh, that's a great cap block, isn't it? Don't you love that cap block so much? I don't have cats. I'm allergic to cats, so I'm not really a huge cat fan, but visually speaking, that was pretty great. I like this sheep one too. So maybe this is kind of a pattern book. I don't know. I'll let you find out when I read it. North Carolina Quilts. This is another one that I thought might be part of the state documenting project per state, but it doesn't give me a lot of. Yeah, I think this might be what this is. I would have to read the front to find out for sure, but this feels very similar to the Illinois one that I just flipped through. It feels very similar to the Georgia one and the Alabama one. So this is what I would guess that this is. So I'm very excited about that. I don't know how many states have these books, but I'd love to collect all the states that have done these projects and created books out of those projects. Would be really worthwhile to have as a set. And this is part of what I love about these books is, you know, not only do they have the names and, you know, family history of many of these quilts, but they have these pictures of the quilt makers, which is just so fascinating. Royal Stars of the States. I got a couple of these kind of like star block, medallion, compass kind of block books because my husband seems to be very, now these are Lone Stars. I'm probably one of the few people that is not a fan of the Lone Star. I don't really care for the Lone Star block, but you know, that's what this book is, I guess. I think that these are all Lone Star blocks. I thought that these were more like medallion compass blocks is what it looked from the cover, but I think it's not. Here, let me see if there's any, maybe as you go farther back. Oh, and they do have these great templates. Vintage quilts. This is going to be a good one. Identifying, collecting, dating, preserving, and valuing. I don't even think we have to flip through this. I think that says it all. Oh, it's a lot of images. I thought this was going to be very text heavy, but this is not very text heavy. But I guess they need a lot of images to show you about dating fabric. But it's not really close-ups of the fabric, is it? It's these full quilts. So I wonder how they're gonna. Okay, so it's a lot of saying what these quilts are. Does it give you information on how to date them though? That's what I really want. It really does it? Where's all the, okay, so I guess it's just a little bit in the beginning. Identifying, collecting, dating, preserving, and valuing. There's the introduction. Build a quilt collection. Collecting by color. All right, I don't know. Collecting by special visual elements. See, I don't really need to know how to collect. I think people collect by just buying what they're drawn to. Oh, here's a value guide. Amish quilts. Okay, so then it just goes into all of these quilts that identify the maker, the style, the date. Let's see if there's anything in the back besides just this. If you want a book of just a bunch of quilts to look at with very little text, this would be it. I really prefer a lot of text with my quilt images. Oh, that's like the grandmother's flower garden that I recently got from a family member. Okay, we're getting towards the end. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. So I would say this is a little disappointing. This isn't quite what I thought it would be, but I will kind of go through this book just for some inspiration. Southern Quilts, Celebrating Traditions, History, and Design. I think this is a newer book because I remember recently hearing about this book. I think I saw the author of this book do an interview on some YouTube channel, some video. Okay, The Ford is by Laurel Horton, who's a pretty famous quilt historian. Let's see, when was this made? Okay, so this was in 2018. This is a newer book. I did I'm almost positive that I heard the author speak about this somewhere. I wish I could remember where. But I think that what she was saying, and I hesitate to even say because I don't remember, it's been a long time since I heard her speak, but I think that there's, you know, the southern quilts are very different from other quilts. You can identify them easily in a variety of ways, and I think this book talks a lot about that. So this will be great. I wish I knew which video that was. I'd go back and watch it. If you happen to have seen the video, the YouTube video that I'm talking about, it was an interview with somebody, I think. The author was interviewed by somebody, and I can't remember which channel. If you happen to know what I'm talking about, comment below, and you know, if I find that video, I'll put the link in the description. Go wild with quilts again. 10 new bird and animal designs. I really enjoy pieced blocks of images, such as animals and such. My fear is that this is going to be primarily foundation paper based, but maybe it's not. Because I don't do foundation piecing. I do, you know, some English paper piecing, but I don't do foundation piecing. Oh, look at these. Look at that chipmunk. That's adorable. And that is, I was wondering, is that applique, but it's not. That is pieced. Wow, that's a great one. Yeah, these are not based on foundation paper, I don't think. I mean, you can easily see how they did that block, right? Oh, look at the deer. I wonder if they appliqued the antlers. I bet they did. Yeah, they must have appliqued. So they pieced the deer body and then appliqued the antlers and then probably appliqued the nose and eyes, those details. There's the chipmunks. Now, maybe that one is foundation pieced. That one must be foundation pieced. It's pretty. Okay, so this is another star block book. And what I was going to say before I got into the whole Lone Star conversation is that my husband really likes these kind of medallion stars, these compass stars. And so I would love to make him a quilt with something kind of similar to these stars. So that's why I got this, is to kind of, I have a couple books on how to make the compass blocks. And I'd like to kind of just give that a try, but I figured I'd get this one as well in case I'm successful in making those compass blocks. I thought this would be a book with some additional options in it. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward. That's beautiful. I have no idea what this is. This looks like it's some kind of, what is going on here? There's something a little disturbing about that. I'll have to read and find out what that is. A lot of text in this book. Love that. These are definitely older quilt blocks. So this is some kind of quilt history book. Quilting Together, Past and Present. Quilting Together. You know what? I wonder if this is about like quilting bees or something, but definitely old blocks, definitely a lot of historical information. It looks like they have quilts with quite a bit of information attached to the quilts, which I love. Quilt makers. So I still am not sure what this book is, but I'll find out. Adding Wood to the Fire, The Quilter's Way. I think that this is like, is this maybe, you know, like a story? I don't know. There are pictures in it, so maybe it's like, I thought maybe it was like a novel or something, but maybe not. Maybe it's just a similar book to the other ones, but kind of in a different physical format. Like this book looks far different than the other ones, right? But, oh, let's look at the Contents. Okay, Making Christmas, Discovering Order, 2 Doors. It tells us nothing about this book. Energy Garden, Barcode in Red, Core, etc., etc. So I'll have to read this and I'll let you know what it is. This is another one that I just have no clue what is going on with this book, but looks like it has potential. Quilters, Women in Domestic Art and Oral History, a selection by the Notable Books Council, 1977. I don't know what the Notable Books Council is. If you do, let me know. This is some kind of historic thing for sure. Let's take a look at the contents. Look at that beauty. That's gorgeous. And that's a Lone Star. Look at how those colors kind of blend with the house. Okay, let's see. Childhood, youth, middle years, old age. Basically says it all. Okay, a lot of text, childhood. I don't know what this is, but I'll find out. It's funny, I've had like 3 books in a row that I'm like, I have no idea what this book is. Images, text, history, that's what I would say this is. This is a strange little book for sure. I love, what are these tree blocks called? Let me think for a second because it'll come to me. Tree of Life. I think it's called the Tree of Life. I love the Tree of Life blocks. I'm going to make one. I love the images of people with their quilts. That's one of my favorite things. Middle years. The chapters of these books are very funny. Sunbonnet Sue. Childhood, youth, middle years, death. It's basically what it is. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, so this one is a kid's book, but this is a super famous quilt. The quilt on this cover is one of the most famous quilts by Faith Ringgold. And it looks like this book is by her because it doesn't just say that the image on the front is her. It basically, I mean, this is indicating it's an author, right? And then what's this here? Some kind of prize. Now I'm noticing, I know this sticker here, and this is supposed to specifically go to a different nonprofit than where I got these books from. So I'm realizing now I actually am not going to keep this book. I'm going to return it to where it needs to go. I know exactly where it needs to go, and I can return it, but I will read it before I return it to that charity, to that nonprofit. So this will be a quick read. All right, we have 3 books left. The Ultimate Scrap Quilt. Create new constructed fabric from scraps. Making quilts from scraps is one of my absolute favorite things to do in the whole wide world. I love little pieces of fabric. I love how a quilt looks when not everything is, exactly the same. When you kind of have to make do with what you have. I feel like it really takes you back to the beginning of quilts in the sense of quilt block construction. Now, when I say that, quilts have been around for a gazillion years, but when I say, back to the day, I mean, the 1700s, 1800s, when, quilts made out of quilt blocks were first coming to be in the United States of America. And using scraps, though, in the 1700s, people were not really using scraps because they were using, they were getting full whole cloth quilts. So they weren't really using scraps. But in the 1800s, it wasn't necessarily that they were using scraps, but they would make a quilt, like let's say you had 100 blocks of these and they were trying to make all these outer ones be blue. And maybe they got, 70% with the same fabric, and then they didn't have any more fabric. They would use a different blue is what I'm trying to say. So it's a little different than scrap quilting, but it is this idea of, you run out of what you have, and so you use something similar or something that complements nicely. And that's something that I really like to do. I'm not quite seeing how all of these come together in I get it. I'm a little skeptical of this book since flipping through. I do like that. That's kind of a neat idea. That's something we could do together for sure. What's this? This is the same idea, kind of just putting the pieces together, the leftovers. And when you put leftovers together from a specific quilt, let's say you make a quilt, let's say you make this quilt and then you have leftovers, all those leftover pieces, you know, go together nicely because you've made a quilt out of them. Oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. What is this? Discover America. 1492, Dare to Dream to 1992. And Friends Sharing America. Award-winning quilts created for the Great American Quilt Festival. Oh, well, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look up more about the Great American Quilt Festival. I feel like in my brain somewhere I know about the Great American Quilt Festival. Lots of text, love that, love all that text. But I can't think of what it is. I mean, I don't think it was a contest, was it? I'll find out. I'll read this book and I'll let you know. Okay, this is some sort of state's project, not even remotely similar to the other state's project I was talking about. But I think, is this the thing where you could submit a quilt for your state and then there was one winner? If this is the one I'm thinking of, I think Mary Fons won her state. Okay, so we have this one is New Hampshire. No, this one's also New Hampshire. I was thinking maybe this was the winners from each state. That's very cool. But it's not. This is New Mexico, New Mexico. Maybe there's, how many pages? Let's see how many pages are in this book. 60. So it could be Wisconsin, New York. This is Rochester, New York, and Vermont. See if I can find the one that Mary Fons made. If I can find that, I'll know what this project is. And if it's not in here, then I'm wrong and it's something totally different. Oh, gosh, look at that. Wow. Nope, maybe not. Maybe it's not that. Wow, look at that one. Beautiful. Okay, it must be something else because they'd certainly have that quilt in here. All right, well, I don't know what that is. We'll find out. Classic Country Quilts, step-by-step directions for 25 all-time favorites. Introduction by Bonnie Lehman. That's why I bought this book. So there was a ton of these types of books at the book sale. And the reason why I came home with this one is because it has an introduction by Bonnie Lehman, who was the creator of Quilter's Newsletter magazine, which I'm a big fan of. So I thought, well, you know, maybe I should grab this book. But I think it's just a pattern book. I don't think that there's anything really all that special, and there's no color. There's a little color. But yeah, it's just patterns. It's just a pattern book. But Bonnie Lehman sold me. So that's it. This is the last book. I think 22 books. So that is all of the books from the book sale, but I will say it's going to take me a while to get to those books because I have a whole stack of books to read before I get to these. The books that I'm reading now, like I mentioned, so I always have one book in my car that I leave in the car, and while I'm, you know, waiting for somebody at the grocery store or wherever, I'll have that book and I'll read it. So that book, the one that's in my car, is the Georgia Quilts Project. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's the Quilt Project documentation of the state of Georgia. And then the one that I'm reading at home, which I'm almost done. So I'll be able to give you a book review of this book, the Quilt Digest, is what I'm reading now, and I'm only a couple pages away. So I thought I would just quickly go through the books in the stack that I'm wanting to read before I get to these new books, right? Quick. Visioning Human Rights in the New Millennium, Quilting the World's Conscious. And this is by Carolyn Mazlumi. And I will tell you right now, before even reading this, it's a winner You should absolutely buy it. Art quilts, playing with a full deck. This one is a bunch of famous quilters back in, I don't know, like the 80s or early 90s. Each were tasked with making a quilt. They each had a deck from a card deck. So like the Two of Spades or the Jack of Hearts. Jack? Yeah, Jack, right? Jack, Queen, King, Ace. Anyway, so they would have to make a full-size quilt in whatever their card was. Anyway, so there's a description of each quilt. And I thought it's kind of a fun thing just to look through the who's who of who the quilt makers were during that time. Okay, I have more Great American Quilt books. 1987. Oh, you know what I just realized? I must have a duplicate because I had already bought 1987. As soon as I picked this up, I was like, 1987, didn't I just get that one at the... All right, so I have two 1987s. Maybe I'll give it to somebody in my quilt guild. Let's see, 1988, is it the other one that I bought? Let me see. It is, it is. I already have both of these books, that's so funny. 1987, all right. Another lucky member of my quilt guild will get that. Okay, the next book that I need to read. The Mountain Artisan Quilting Book. More Lap Quilting with Georgia Bone Steel. Diamond Patchwork. I don't know if I'm going to read this. So I got this off of Abe Books. It arrived. I'm skeptical. Have you read this? I mean, it's not really a reading book. It's about how to like use diamonds in your quilts, but I don't know. I'm not feeling drawn to that. That may be sitting around for a while. Two more. All Flags Flying, American Patriotic Quilts as Expressions of Liberty. And, did you see that one? This is like older patriotic quilts. This won't take long to read. It's basically just reading the description next to each image, and there's probably like a little intro, but that one looks like a good one. I'm working on two Quilts of Valor, so I thought that that might be some good inspiration for that. And then the last one is America's Quilts and Coverlets by Carlton Stafford and Robert Bishop. This is interesting because, so I've gone to that, the book sale that I was talking about that I got those 22 books at. I've gone to that this time and then one other time, and both times they have had like one copy of all these other books, and then there's like 6 copies of this book like every time, and it's not like it's the same 6, because at the end of every book sale they donate those books somewhere else. They're all gone and they start fresh. They start from square one. So I don't know why there are so many copies of this around, but there are. So I have that one that I want to read. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.